Hi. Ooh, this is a new angle. I like it solely because you can see Bentley. This plant behind me has been struggling a little bit lately, so I feel like it's just winter. The winter dryness it's killing me. It kills me every year. I feel like I age 3 years every winter, and then I just like chill spring, summer, fall. But it doesn't matter because it's like not aging 1 year in winter, it's aging 3 years in winter. I age 12 seasons worth in one season because of how freaking dry the winter is. The headache of trying to figure out humidifiers and just trying to remember to drink my water. I know that's the best tip. That's like truly the easiest, the freest, and the best thing you can do is just drink water. Take this as like a personal water check-in. Have you drank enough water today? Anywho, hello and welcome back to another coffee talk, except I've got water and coffee here today. I am still in the midst of working with this new camera as my podcasting camera, so let me know. I know it's not that big of a deal. It's literally not even that different. It's me that's gonna care so much and overthink it so much, but this is like a different angle than usual, and I don't know how I feel about it. I think I like that better. Today I'm drinking an almond croissant flavored. I know I just said croissant so poorly, but almond croissant. I'm drinking an almond croissant flavored Nespresso pod with this is the newest Elmhurst creamer. I'm still on the creamer train. I'm still trying to figure out the creamer thing. This one's good. It's only made out of 2 ingredients, unfiltered water, or it must be filtered water. Why does my brain remembered it as unfiltered water, but I feel like that makes zero sense. It's got to be filtered water and hazelnuts. It doesn't pack a whole punch. I would say it's much creamier than just like carton almond milk. Like I'll drink it in the name of health, but it's nowhere near as tasty as the creamers, as the other creamers I was buying. All of the gum and what's the other stuff in there? Oils, all of the CD oil, gummy, like weird Anzacthum, whatever that thing is called. The Starbucks non-dairy coffee creamer. Like it is nowhere near as tasty as that, but it's healthy. I mean, the Nespresso pod makes it frothy. Like I have no complaints. It's just not a treat. I only have 1 coffee a day that's solely for like maintenance caffeine. And if I can like get my body a bit more accustomed to less caffeine, then I think that might be better. All this to say, what the fuck am I trying to say? I don't know. I'm struggling with my coffees, and that's not a good way to start the year. I just want to know what my coffee drink is, what my morning coffee beverage is. And I'm in the name of trying to be healthier. I'm trying to get some kind of different creamer going that isn't full of a ton of ingredients that aren't great for me, especially when I'm drinking multiple decaf coffees a day. But instead, I'm sitting here with this hazelnut rich Nespresso almond croissant drink, and it's good, but it could be better, and that bugs me. Also, just a note, my coffee creamer is like fully separated from my coffee, so I'm gonna say 4 out of 10, maybe even a 3 out of 10 for that one. Let's just jump right into our healing mantra, shall we? I feel like it always kind of sets the tone for the whole chat. How many cards deep are we now? We are on week 8 of the healing mantras. I started this the week of Christmas, where each week I am pulling a card from Matt Kahn's The Healing Mantra deck, because it was my favorite deck pretty much up until Christmas time. And it has just a very simple, easy to understand mantra. Is great as a prompt to go deeper with and to explore a little bit. Our card this week is Untangling Neglect. I take the time to give myself all of the approval I desire. Specifically, the word untangling is interesting because it gives the idea that our neglect can get tangled into knots. Like think about the knots in your back or your neck or your shoulders. And when left too long, they build and build and build. And then they just become a constant sore spot, a constant place of where pressure, like pushing on it, getting a massage, or just like a kink in the neck, whatever it is, like it becomes a spot of blocked energy. That energy can no longer move. The pressure has built up in that spot. And so we have to work it out. We have to work those knots out to untangle them. And neglect is tricky because a lot of the times, the places or the ways that we tend to feel neglected in adulthood are tangled very deeply in the things that made us feel neglected at first as children, or multiple times, especially again, like thinking of building those knots, building the tanglement of neglect. It's being neglected over and over and over again, especially in a specific manner or in a specific area of life or in a specific way that makes that space or that tangle so painful. And when the knot or the tangle of neglect is painful, we act out, and we act out unconsciously. So I have a lot of grace and empathy when I notice that someone might be acting out of a space of like hurt or pain or neglect. Not to say that the choices people make from those places are okay, but more so that, I mean, we've talked about this many times in coffee talks before, and I'm probably going to sound like a broken record saying it again, but when including the things we do, the way we treat other people, the things that we say to other people, and even the actions we take in order to, again, very unconsciously, like I don't think that it's a very conscious effort to do things in order to gain some kind of reaction, but you can see it happening. I mean, take social media, for example. Like, if there was nobody to see a social post, would people still be posting, or would it just be like the artists? Would it just be the people trying to express themselves? For the most part, everything we do actually comes from a place of connection to other. And that's a very neutral thing. That's not a good thing or a bad thing. It can be a good thing and it can be a bad thing, but it is just neutral. We can use the fact that a lot of the choices, not all of them, but a vast majority of the choices that we make in our day-to-day has to do with our connection and relation to other people. And it can be from a place of alignment when we give ourselves the time to fill our own cup first. Then normally a lot of the choices we make and the ways that we interact with other people come from a place of alignment. But when we are tangled up in neglect, then unconsciously, a lot of the actions that we make, a lot of the things we do, a lot of the stuff that we create or manifest in the life around us comes from unconsciously wanting somebody to give us that sense of approval, to give us that sense of attention. I take the time to give myself all of the approval I desire. What would that look like? Because I think it would be different for everybody to act on that idea, to give yourself, to take the time, first of all, because it does take a little bit of time, and it takes, the only way to even know what parts of ourselves are feeling neglected is to take a little bit of time to like tune into ourselves, right? Like it takes a healthy level of self-awareness to be open to the places that we're feeling neglected. There's a lot of stress collectively, right? And it is normal that in our states of stress, we go into fight or flight. And when we're stuck in our fight or flight, we don't have the capacity to be overly aware of even the people we love most and the ways that they might be feeling neglected or the way what their needs might be. And so how do we fix that? I think we fix that by obviously taking responsibility for the places that in ourselves that feel neglected, and take time to just sit every morning. And it doesn't have to be long. Like, I know I definitely am not in a season of life where I have a whole lot of time to sit and meditate in the morning like I used to. Steal the time and make it short and sweet to just check in with yourself. And it's so simple the way to do it, but it's so complicated because even intellectually knowing that all you have to do to check in and see places in yourself that might be feeling neglected is to close your eyes and just breathe. And things will rise to the surface. Things will come from the subconscious up to the conscious brain if we give space for that to happen. It's just sometimes, again, stuck in that state of fight or flight, stuck in that state of stress, it can be very difficult for our brains to get on board with the idea of allowing ourselves a moment to sit, to breathe, and to just calm the water and see what floats to the surface. So I think that's the first step to untangling neglect, is to have that moment at some point. And if you can't do it in the morning, do it anytime you can. Do it now if you want to. Pause the video and do it now. Just breathe and see if there's any part of you that's feeling neglected that might boil to the surface. And then whatever that part is, give it the approval that it's seeking. Give it the approval that it is desiring. Desiring is an interesting word because desire is, again, a neutral experience of being a human. Desire can also be a beautiful experience of being human. However, desire can also wreak a lot of havoc in our lives if it's coming from a place of neglect. If our desire is coming from a place of lack, it tends to override our conscious thinking. And then we begin to desire things from a place of filling the ego rather than desiring things from a place of the pleasure of being a human being and feeling all of the different multifaceted feelings that humans can and creating all of the kind of experiences that we can create in our human existence. And so when we take time to let our neglect, let our wounds rise to the surface, and then give ourselves whatever approval it is that we seek, whatever love it is that we're looking for, whatever, like if you've been feeling unseen or unheard or uncared for, overwhelmed, burnt out, stressed out, sore, even like physically sore, whatever it is, let it rise to the surface. Have you ever heard of the idea that, I forget who originally said it, but that everything we could possibly seek is already within us? And it comes from the notion that, while yes, we live in a three-dimensional world where obviously if I seek a car is not within me. But what I'm really seeking for from a car, the energy exchange that a car might give me, is something that it's a frequency that already exists within me. And so when we feel neglected and we seek through the approval of others, through the love of others, the care of others, the touch of others, the appreciation of others, whatever it is, when we seek that like a balm to our wounds of neglect, that's where I think the desire starts to get out of hand. That's where I feel like we start to crave more and more and need more and more, because the wound just becomes like a void that we're trying to fill. And the only way to actually fill in that void effectively is to do the work, to take the time to dive deep into the subconscious and then give the piece of you, especially if you can get down to the original wound, the original neglect, the original feeling, or the first time you ever felt that feeling of neglect. So I'll give a specific example for this. Like, let's say you feel unheard, specifically in a relationship or a friendship or at work, and you're trying so hard to either share your ideas, or you're trying so hard to express yourself, or you're trying so hard to just connect through interaction, through communication. And every time you try, you either feel rejected, or you just feel like, the words that were said and then what was heard and given back to you was not what you meant. If you can sit with that feeling of feeling unheard, that neglect of having effective communication, let's say, and then think back to the first time in your life that you ever felt unheard. And you don't have to get it right, because you might think like, oh, well, the first time I can ever really think about it is like when I was a teenager, but I'm sure there was times where I was younger and I felt unheard. Go with whatever pops into your head. Go with whatever the subconscious gives you. Whatever floats to the surface. Don't try and keep diving deeper. I mean, you can sit longer and like continue to let the water just chill and see if more comes to the surface. But odds are, when the subconscious throws you a bone, take the bone. Take the bone, because it'll keep throwing you bones when the time is right. And so whatever pops up into the surface as it being the earliest time or the time of most significance that you felt unheard, give that version of yourself what it was needing. So the way you give yourself the approval you desire is to imagine, if this works for you. I'm a very visual person, so I like to imagine it in my mind's eye, it happening almost like a dream, where I can go into the room that I was when whoever it was not hearing me, and I can grab onto my little kid hands and I can jump up and down and just like squeal with her about how excited she is about something. Or I could go in and sit down with my younger self and say, tell me what's bothering you. Like, I'm here to hear it. I'm here to understand. I'm here to try and work through these complicated emotions you're feeling for the first time as a little kid or as a young girl or a young woman. Like, give yourself those pieces of neglect. And it can be on a smaller scale too. It doesn't always have to go that deep. Like, that sounds like a lot of inner work, which can be great, but everything has a time and place. So let's say in the moment you catch yourself like thirst trapping. Okay. I used to do this. I used to post thirst traps back in the day. And when I think back to them, they're cool. They're cool because it's like, at least I can look back and be like, damn, You know, when I'm 80, I'm not going to regret my thirst trap. Let's just leave it at that. When I'm 80, I'll look back at my thirst trap and be like, I was hot. But at the time when posting a thirst trap, there's one in particular I can think of is I had just dyed my hair dark and I was posting a thirst trap because I just wanted to feel desired. I wanted to feel pretty. I wanted to feel good enough. And so what I did in that moment of feeling neglected is I turned to social media to use that as like a balm to, you know, fix this little wound I was feeling, this like neglect I was feeling. And what I could have done, had I had done enough work and had the maturity and the self-awareness at the time, I could have, I mean, I still could have posted the thirst trap. I mean, post the thirst trap, you know, if you want to feel beautiful, if you want, like social media, I just saw Mel Robbins say this morning, and I think it's so true that social media is your form of self-expression. And if you want to express yourself through your physical appearance, like don't let people make you feel bad about it, especially if there's like a lot more to you and you know that, like, you know that there's more to you and you know that there's more to the world than the way that people look. But at the same time, like, you know, the way we do our makeup, the way we do our hair, the way we dress our bodies is a form of expression. And if you want to share that, share it. However, again, in that moment, that wasn't what I was doing. Okay. In that moment, what I was trying to do is say, please think I'm beautiful. Please think I'm beautiful. And what I could have done instead is find a way to give that feeling of, I think you're beautiful, to myself. And perhaps that was a way, honestly, again, like I'm picking myself apart here a little bit, or like younger me apart by saying like, oh, I didn't need to post the thirst trap. I don't know. Come to think of it, what would you do in that moment? Like, what are ways that you give yourself the approval? It's right here in the mantra. I could have instead in that moment given myself the approval that I was looking for through someone else. I could have given myself the approval I was looking for online. I could have given myself the approval that yet to myself again, like if I imagine going back into my room at that time, I was living in Toronto, and just like meeting myself there, I would just be like, you're hot. Okay. But beyond that, you are so lovable. And anybody that doesn't love you, it's not about you, it's about them. And so love yourself and just feel good and true about yourself, and, you know, share the things you want to share, speak your joy, be who you want to be, express who you want, how you want to express the things that you're going through and experiencing, but don't minimize yourself so much as to feeling like you're trying to be someone you're not to gain a certain kind of approval. Like that's, I think, the part that I'm picking apart a little bit. I'm overanalyzing here, but is that I wasn't really being myself when I was seeking that desire, because I was acting, here we go, I was acting out of alignment. I was not acting in a place of alignment. I'm pretty sure I've taken that photo off of Instagram because I don't identify with that version of myself, you know? I don't identify with the desperate versions of me. And that's it. Like, I think that when we're tangled up in neglect, it makes us desperate. And the desire from a form of desperation is not acting in alignment. So take the time. Let the feelings rise to the surface anywhere that you might be feeling neglected in your life right now. And give yourself in those moments, in whatever way makes sense to you, give it to yourself. Give the approval that you're seeking externally to yourself somehow. Not only is it putting us back into a state of alignment where all of the choices and the ways that we interact with the world then aren't coming from our wounded selves, it's coming from our aligned selves. But I also think that even further, when we learn how powerful we are, when we learn that that power rests within us, that we can give ourselves the approval that we are perhaps desperately or sometimes periodically seeking in the external world, when we realize that we actually have that tool within, and it is just as simple as it's as simple and as complicated as stopping and breathing and noticing what comes up. It's that simple to give yourself the approval. You just have to get your brain to break the chain and try it. And even if the first time it doesn't feel real, it doesn't feel like powerful, it doesn't feel empowering. The thing about neuroplasticity is that in order to change our brain, we have to do something over and over and over again to get it to keep that chain broken. So keep doing it. Keep noticing all of the times that you're acting out of a place of neglect, or you're acting out of a place of desperation, or you're acting out of a place of looking to the outside world to fill you up, and then rewire it. Give the approval to yourself again and do it over and over and over again until it becomes second nature. And then that is when it becomes empowering. It'll still be empowering in the moment, but it'll become like an integrated form of empowerment that nobody can take from you because it's intrinsic. You were born with it. We all were. And that kind of power, that's the kind of power that changes the world if we all gave ourselves the approval that we seek. All right, here's what the deck book has to say. When neglect is untangled, you are no longer turning to outside sources for constant reassurance and validation. Ooh, reassurance is a good one too, because it's like, so you can get that form of assurance. When we feel neglected, someone can actually make us feel better. And we're like, oh, okay, I feel good now. But then all of a sudden, because again, we didn't do it ourselves, we didn't give the approval ourselves, and we didn't break the chain and like fill in that void over and over and over again for ourselves, we start needing that reassurance over and over and over again in the external, because it never fully fills the void. Instead, you are going within the depths of your own heart to notice the parts of yourself that require the presence of your attention. I love that. Presence. The parts of yourself that require presence. That's what it is. It's like I was thinking about this on the weekend. It's interesting how when you think of the language around attention, we talk about paying attention as if it's like a form of currency. And that's because it is. And so I think, again, when we go into like the realm of social media, we see it a lot. And it makes a lot of sense in terms of like what the algorithm beast has turned into, has created a beast of its own, where again, I'm going to try, like, I don't mean this to sound judgmental. It's the only way it seems to truly go like viral on the internet is to do things that cause people to pay attention to you. And people have gone to the point of like, they don't care anymore if the attention they're getting is like praise or rage. Like I'm sure you've heard of the term rage baiting, where people are creating social media posts. They're creating content to truly elicit a fear of rage in the consumer, because that gives you attention. And the algorithm beast doesn't care what kind of attention the content is getting. It just wants to keep people on the apps. So what it's going to do is it's going to see that and go, oh, you're getting a lot of really mean, terrible comments, or a lot of people are watching your stuff, or a lot of people are and rage especially. Like, think about how activating anger is. Anger makes people act, making people feel really warm, soft, and cozy. Like, yes, that's a great thing. Like, that's what I aspire to do on the internet, but it's not as activating as a feeling of rage. So people are literally, again, consciously or unconsciously, intentionally or not, it doesn't matter. It's still happening, that it has become a norm that people are going to such extremes, even to purposefully create intense negative feelings on the internet in order to get them to pay their attention, pay their energy to their content, right? Okay, so sorry, that was just to say it, like the parts of yourself that require the presence of attention. What that is, when we are asking for people to pay attention to us, what we're asking for is their presence. And that, like, not to be corny or cliche, but like, let's rewind a little bit to Christmas for a second. Like, presence is the present. And it's true, that is a true gift to give somebody your presence. And that includes your own. So you giving yourself, sitting with yourself, being present with your own body. I don't know, sometimes it can even be emotional to do it because it's been so long that we've neglected ourselves even. So giving yourself presence and attention, going into the depths of your heart to do that. In nurturing yourself this way, you step forward as the first responder to each wound, concern, and desire. Ooh, whoa, okay, whoa. In nurturing yourself in this way, you step forward as the first responder to each wound, concern, and desire. So every time you catch yourself feeling wounded, feeling concerned, or having a desire, you step up and you take responsibility to be the first person that acts on that feeling rather than looking for other people to do it. I love that. That's an empowering form of like taking responsibility, taking duty over yourself. From this space, there becomes less of a likelihood of attracting relationships where further neglect occurs, simply because you've accepted your role as the one who nurtures the innocence within you. Damn, it's true. When we do that, when we give ourselves presence, when we give ourselves the approval that we're seeking or desiring in the outside world, we stop creating chains or, relationship bonds. I mean, people like to use the word trauma bond, but it's not that intense. I just mean more so like we break the attention bonds that we make with people and that form into relationships where you end up bonding over your wounds, your concerns, and your desires. And instead you, from a place of like, that is such a deep form of self-love that from that place, any relationship, any bond you do make with somebody would also come from that place. And again, would save you from being in relationships where further neglect occurs. And that is powerful, because if there's one way, again, like thinking of like karma and learning lessons and breaking patterns, which is very much the theme of 2025, being a year 9, being the year of the snake. A lot of stuff, in my opinion, both collectively and individually, is rising to the surface, whether we are giving our subconscious the chance or not. Like in the 3-dimensional world around us, whether it's in relationship to other people or in karmic situations of like health or finances or success or love or family, like in all of the main pillars of our human lives, for the most part, I think that it makes sense to me that a lot of manifested, it's almost like a Saturn return, but like manifested experiences are coming to the surface to be either finally like slaughtered. Like think of it as like your snake, right? Your big snake is coming out, and it's coming out to say, okay, you've gone through this pattern. You've circled the snake so many times. The snake has ate its tail so many times that it's become this big snake now. And the snake's going to come out and it's going to reveal itself to you. And as it does, when you see the experience that you've created through your choices and decisions in this year at some point in 2025, like, are you going to slay the snake, break the chain, stop it from eating its tail again, and free yourself from that karmic loop? Or are we going to allow the snake to eat its tail again and cycle itself again through a whole new decade? Anywho, that's my chat today. I feel like I feel a little off today. I just feel like I couldn't get into the zone and my brain feels very broken, and I didn't sleep very well last night. So I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm saying sorry. I shouldn't be saying sorry, but I guess this is just like my intentions were I had so many great intentions for our chat today. There's so many things I wanted to talk about. Then I sat in the chair and I was just like, boom. And that's just kind of life lately. And without further ado, I'll chat with you guys all in the next one. Stay hydrated.